What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Bubba Speed Career Mode in MotoGP 19. And as I mentioned in my first MotoGP 20 video that came out the other day, I'm going to be releasing these daily until we finish this season. That way we can, as fast as possible, move on to MotoGP 20 and see what happens with Bubba Speed and moving on to a better game with, or at least technically a better game, and then, of course, updated rosters and things like that. So hopefully you guys are excited for that, because I know I am. And now we have to go to Aragon in Spain, which is one of my least favorite tracks on the entire calendar. This is a track where I've never been able to do anything, which, of course, as you can tell based on qualifying, where we literally qualified 29th out of 30, I did not do a very good job here in qualifying. So this is a track that I have a terrible history with. I think the first time I ever tried it was in a World Superbike game. I think that's the case. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like that's the first time I tried it, and I haven't had a Superbike game since the early 2010s, I think it is. So it's been a while. I think the thing that put me off of those games was the fact that they added turbo out of nowhere, and it was, or not even turbo. It was essentially nitrous, where you could turn it on whenever you wanted. You know, it was just pretty garbage in my opinion. So I stopped playing that, and I've always had issues with that ever since. I haven't tried a Superbike game, so let me know if you know. Let me know in the comments, you know, if those games have actually gotten good. Maybe I'll sometime pick them up or something like that. Try it out and maybe bring something to the channel. But regardless, I've just never had a good relationship with this track. I mean, in this game, I will say it actually feels better. There's something about it in this game that feels, maybe the physics have gotten to the point where even tracks like this, which are actually pretty difficult, pretty complicated, they feel a bit better. And it might actually be the visuals too, because this part right here has kind of thrown me off ever since I tried it for the first time. Of course, you have this long, it's not really even a straightaway because it is kind of turning, but you have this long little part of it where you are going to the left a little bit, and then there's this cut, you just the cut left, you know, big time, and then you come over here up this little hill, and then you have a chicane. Now, it could just be me with a mush brain who has always had problems with this track, but for some reason I just couldn't memorize it. I just couldn't match what's going on screen, you know, to my memory and stuff like that. It just, for some reason, I couldn't get it to stick. But this game, I do feel like it is a bit better. Maybe it's just me, like I said, but it could also be that maybe, I don't know, the game is just kind of, it renders it better and it makes it easier for you to follow and memorize. And yeah, the physics of the game are definitely so much better than they used to be, so that's probably something to it as well. And we started off all the way down in 29th, but right now we're in 9th position. Actually, we've gained 20 positions, so having a really good race. Like, even if we don't end up winning it, then you could definitely say that Bubba's had an excellent performance just for finishing in the top 10 if that's where he finishes. But right now, up to 6th, of course, played a little bit dirty there, bumping into Mazia right there, or Arbolino, I think, yeah, Arbolino. So, playing it a bit dirty, but you have to do what you got to do, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you have to take advantage of certain situations, and Bubba isn't gonna be any different. When we've seen Marc Marquez do it to Valentino Rossi, we've seen, you know, Simoncelli was notorious for being, I'm not gonna say dirty, but he was very physical. So there have been a lot of those riders in the past, and the good thing about this is you can't kill somebody in a video game unless it's Mortal Kombat. But you can't kill somebody in a racing game. That'd be kind of cool if you could. Like, in a weird way, it'd be kind of cool. But yeah, regardless, like, Bubba Speed all the way up to 4th position. Antonelli and Canet are the two guys he has to worry about the most, and that's probably Della Porta right there. Yep, it is. So these are literally the 4 guys, or the 3 guys he has to worry about the most. So he needs to win this race to gain enough points to actually be competitive for the title. Like, at this point, he's kind of out there. He's kind of a bit far away, but if he can get a win here, then there's a good chance he can actually get himself back into it. And the important thing is not blowing it. Of course, that's a terrible way to take that turn. Like I was saying, it's just kind of hard for me for some reason to really get the timing on that specific turn right. Like, I've definitely got to work on a lot of the tracks that are newer. You know, like, I need to just sit down and dedicate an hour or 2 per track just to get good at this one, get used to Thailand. What else is there? I need to learn Silverstone desperately. You know, because, like, all the classic tracks, I can pretty much hold my own. Once I, of course, get used to the physics of the new game, and it just seems like there's going to be some differences based on what they've said, then you should probably see Bubba competing for a lot more a lot more wins, as opposed to, you know, a lot of times blowing it and stuff like that. And one thing I will say as we go into the final lap, as Bubba is actually first, is that I really do hope that they have a slightly less punishing penalty system, because penalties are pretty much the biggest problem I have with this game. And it's not as bad as it used to be, because it used to be literally you just touch the grass or touch the dirt, whatever it was, and you were already gaining up penalties. We're building them up. So it's gotten a lot better from that point of view, but I still feel like there's some times where it's a little too punishing. Like you can kind of, I don't know, you can go in a situation where you run wide and they'll give you a penalty if you hit the grass. Like, if it's one thing if you actually gain time on your opponent, it's another thing if, you know, it's actually costing you. And I feel like a lot of times they give you penalties even in situations where it's not in your advantage. So hopefully they will fix that. But right now Bubba has a decent gap over second place. But unfortunately, coming into the part of the track where we struggle the most, this chicane right here is just deadly for me personally. So you can run wide here and then actually get a decent drive as you push through. But as you can obviously see, they gained on Bubba big time, so it wasn't exactly ideal, and he has to try to get a good drive. But the problem with Aragon, for Bubba specifically, is there's a lot of parts of the track where it's actually pretty fucking fast. Here cuts it too. See what I mean? Like, I just don't feel like Bubba actually gained anything out of that. I don't feel like he actually cut. I feel like maybe just a very, very small amount, but, you know, 0.2 of a second are massive in Moto 3. In MotoGP, a lot of times it's not too big of a deal, just because there's so much, you know, such a gap between, you know, first and everybody else essentially. But when you're first in Moto 3, you can literally have 5-6 guys bunched up within that kind of a distance. So you have to understand that's a major penalty, especially on a track like Aragon, which has so many, you know, just fast part, like right here. Look at that. Like, look how fucking much they gained and actually passed Bubba's speed. So he has to get a really good drive coming out of this last turn. He does actually get a good one too. He cuts out wide, which is what he wants to do. He avoids getting on the grips too much, but is it going to be enough? Let's take a look. They're very, very close. I don't think it's going to be enough. And it's not enough. Literally by 0.063. That's as close as you can get, essentially, to actually winning the race. And that's going to be brutal, because Bubba is 22 points back, and he could have easily been about 17. No, he would have been 17 points back, which would have been massive for him, especially because, of course, Canet actually ended up winning the race. So he could have been really, really close. I'm probably doing bad math there. He probably would have been, you know, more than that. Probably, I mean, like, closer than 17 points, which would have basically left everything open, especially as, you know, there's Motegi, where Bubba's good at, I'm good at. There's Phillip Island, where I'm good at. There's Valencia, that I'm really good at. So, you know, it would have been favorable. But now we're going to go into Thailand. I'm just going to go ahead and start skipping the qualifying little clips, because I honestly feel like they're redundant. I mean, like, what's really the point of showing you guys me crossing the line? I can just kind of show you, you know, Bubba's starting position and go from there. There's really no need for it. You can see where he starts in. So, you know, there's no need to show you that stuff. And it's just kind of, you know, to make things shorter and make things a bit more fluid, so potentially we can actually fit in some extra races maybe next season if things go a little bit better. Of course, with Moto 3 bikes, you know, the races tend to be a little bit longer just because they're slower than the MotoGP bikes. They're a solid 20 seconds per lap slower in a lot of them, so it makes sense. But for sure, as we start moving up in the divisions and the weight in the CCs, then you'll definitely start seeing more races and videos, I would say. But regardless, Bubba Speed started off decently, but he's dropped off a lot of positions, of course. And Thailand is another track where speed is going to be a big deal. It's not a I don't even want to say it's not a technical track, because who am I to say that? But what I'm going to say is it's a lot more top speed related, as opposed to, you know, say even Aragon, really. Like, Aragon has a lot of spots that do basically favor bikes that have a lot of power, but they also have a lot of, you know, chicanes and things like that, where this track is pretty simple, and it actually does favor, like, with a lot of wide runoffs and stuff like that. You can actually kind of cheese your way through it in some ways. And this is definitely one of the tracks that I need to sit down and just really, really learn it, because it's actually not even one that I don't like racing on. Like, it's actually a decent track, as opposed to a lot of the new ones. I feel like this one's decent. Like, Circuit of the Americas is pretty much garbage in my opinion, but this one is actually pretty fun. So I will say that, you know, I will give them credit. The Thais did do a good job here making this track. So hats off to them for there. Bubba right now in 7th position. Canet is 1st. Antonelli is 8th, actually, right on our ass right now. So if we can win this race, then we would definitely gain a lot of points in Antonelli. But despite me believing that Antonelli would be the most difficult opponent or the main rival throughout the entire season, it's actually been Canet for a while now. He's kind of turned things around. In this second half of the championship, he's really started to get a lot of points and just really start putting a lot of wins together. So he's definitely showing a new level in Moto3. We have to do whatever we can to actually get close to him. But this is a track that so far isn't looking like it's gonna be in our favor. Canet's, he's controlling the race really well. Meanwhile, we're having a hard time keeping ourselves in the top 10 actually. So have to either have a hell of a second half of this lap plus third lap, or we're gonna have to accept that we're not gonna really be competing for the title, which is a shame considering Bubba's been pretty consistently decent all season long, which is why he's in 2nd. But have to try as hard as you can, and Bubba is trying that right now. He's definitely not gonna quit, and I would say that basically, guys, what I'm thinking of is moving into the next season, and of course we'll see what happens. But I feel like regardless what happens, Bubba does deserve to get on a good bike next season, whether it's it's one of the best ones or not. I feel like he definitely needs to get an upgrade in terms of bike, because regardless of what happens, like, he has had an excellent season. Like, literally the team expectations for him was 15th to 20th or something like that. Occasionally get points, but he's constantly been among the front guys trying to win the championship. So I feel like it would be kind of an injustice towards him, and really to everybody watching too, if he doesn't actually get put on a good bike and actually given the right equipment and the right vehicle essentially to be able to actually go and chase a championship on even terms with some of the top guys. So I feel like he definitely is going to get himself a shot at one of those big bikes. And of course, in the last lap, he has a lot of ground to make. But Bubba's done some crazy shit before. He qualified next to last again in Aragon, which is the track traditionally very, very bad for him. And he came within literally essentially a split second, basically, from winning. And that was only because of a bullshit penalty that he should have appealed, but unfortunately the game doesn't let you. But can he do the same thing here in Thailand? I mean, obviously it's looking like it's going to be pretty rough, but this part of the track right here is pretty difficult. Like, I would say, for some reason, like this, actually no, this is the part where Bubba gains a lot on. That's right, this is the 3rd sector. Going into the 3rd sector right here. This is where Bubba tends to gain on. The 1st sector is kind of a difficult one. Oh, but he fucked up there. The 1st sector is kind of difficult, but Bubba does tend to be a bit quicker in qualifying, and then the 2nd sector is, really difficult for him. And the 3rd one is where he does kind of start to gain back. You can see Suzuki is right within his sights. Can he actually get himself up there though? Runs a bit wide, which isn't a problem. You get plenty of speed coming out of there. He kind of ran really wide going through that turn. Lost a lot of ground, and most importantly, lost a lot of rhythm, and lost a lot of the corner speed that he was going to be carrying over to those few turns. And essentially, it's going to be over here. I don't see him getting past anybody out here because, of course, they're going to have a good drive. I mean, he doesn't do badly there, but they're just a little too far ahead. And Bubba Speed finishes 9th place. I mean, just look at the amount of people right there. If you get like a half a second penalty, which isn't uncommon in this game, you're pretty screwed. So that's a problem. Hopefully they'll fix that a little bit in 20. Canet wins. Ramirez 2nd. De La Porta 3rd. Thankfully, Antonelli only finished a couple of positions above Bubba, but Bubba is now 40 points behind Aaron Canet, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I would say that's pretty much game over unless Bubba can pretty much win every race, and maybe Canet drops a lot of points. I don't know. It's not going to be easy. Bubba's going to give it everything he has, and now we're going into Motegi in the next video, which is definitely one of the most fun tracks in the calendar, I would say. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Please hit the like button if you did, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell that you get notified every time a video comes out, which is the best way to support a small channel like this one. And let me know what you guys think of Bubba's chances of actually winning this championship, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.